Are there any volcanoes that currently that you guys are worried about?
In the United States,
We're gonna go. Yeah, we'll go America first, and then we'll expand the search.
There are no volcanoes in the lower 48 United States right now that are anomalously active. One thing that a lot of people might not realize is that there are always volcanoes erupting in Alaska along the Aleutian chain. There are every day there's a volcano erupting in Alaska. There generally isn't any population around those volcanoes, so you don't hear about it, and it's maybe not a huge hazard or an everyday hazard. But they are monitored very closely because outside of COVID times, at least, there's a ton of air traffic that goes over those volcanoes. So the Alaska volcano has a big responsibility for that, and they're always worried about particular volcanoes. Yeah.
So what, like in the Aleutian now? This isn't like an underwater volcano. This is like a legitimate.
No.
John, I'm gonna need to pull this up, dude.
Yeah. These are all above land. Google search Redoubt volcano and look at the eruption in 1989. Redoubt is a volcano that's actually pretty close to Anchorage, and
that caused a giant tsunami, right?
I don't know about that. I don't think so. There was a tsunami in the 70s in Anchorage. But that was not related to volcanoes.
That might be what I'm thinking of. That is wild.
Yeah.
I'm looking. So there is an eruption every single day in the Aleutian. How many? There's
I mean, a lot of these eruptions are small, but they're erupting.
Like
if
go ahead.
If they were erupting in in the Cascades, it would be a big deal. They're big enough that it would be a big deal if they were in our backyard.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this like Hawaii style eruptions or like a notch above that?
No, these are generally explosive eruptions, putting ash into the air. There's lava also.
What?
Extruding out. Yeah, like look at like the volcanoes that are active right now are Pavlov volcano. That one I think is actively pushing out a lava flow that's going down like these steep flanks. And it's occasionally got these small explosions. Cleveland volcano is like pushing out this lava dome right now.
What? This is fucking mind blowing, dude. I had no idea.
I know. Yeah.
John, did you know this?
I knew that the Aleutians were very active. I didn't realize like daily active, but I knew that there were three that erupted like at the same time last summer, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something going on in Alaska.
There's always something. Yeah. There's the party's in Alaska right now. If you're a volcanologist, you got to get up there. Man, I didn't. So are we're watching, because you always hear about Hawaii, but like the people in Alaska, why don't we get any love? Like our shit is dope. It's popping off. They're just doing little lava flows. Like that's boring. We're taping this and gathering a bunch of data and stuff, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
It's all being recorded. Alaska. Well, so first of all, like all the observatories in the United States, there's one in Hawaii, there's one in Alaska, there's one here in the Cascades. There's one in California for Mount Mammoth, and Shasta and Lassen, and some other volcanic centers. And then there's the Yellowstone one, and all of these volcano observatories work together. So people in Alaska are helping out in Hawaii. People in Hawaii are helping out in Alaska. Things like that.
Can you switch locations? Like if you're like, all right, like I've done the Alaska thing, I want to check out Hawaii for a hot second, monitor this volcano. Can you do that?
It doesn't happen often, just because people have their lives, and they don't often fully switch observatories, but people have always helped out and provided assistance, and actually in like the last 2 years during the pandemic, because the whole world's kind of gotten their act together in terms of working remotely. There's been a lot more interaction. So like every 6 weeks, like I'll do a rotation with the Alaska Volcano Observatory as their duty seismologist, which just means I just check the data every morning and make sure that there isn't anything unexpected that's happened. Because there's like how many volcanoes do we monitor in Alaska? Like 40 or something, and that's a lot to like go through every day and just make sure like, all right, like nothing's erupting.
Yeah.
So
is it just because of is there a plate up there that's butting up against another plate, and is that what's causing all of these eruptions, or what's going on up there? Why is it so happening?
It's similar to Japan.
Okay.
The Pacific plate is subducting, northward under. I'm not sure what the plate on the other side is called actually, but yeah, it's just another subduction zone. Subduction zones tend to produce volcanoes that are very explosive. So that's why, like in Japan, the Aleutians, here in the Cascades, over in Indonesia and the Philippines, like all those volcanoes tend to be a lot more explosive than something like Hawaii.
Okay, what's up, John?
So it's Alaska is on the North American plate, and it's subducting. The Pacific plate is subducting underneath the North American plate.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Google and John. All right. So the next most logical sketch place is going to be like Indonesia, correct? Because it's of the same. It's the same things going on. It's a subduction zone.
Yeah, I mean, Indonesia and the Philippines, it's similar to the Aleutians. There's always volcanoes erupting there, and it's it makes it interesting, and that's why our team VDAP is such a useful team to have exist, because like the Aleutians in Alaska, it's this very remote island chain with a ton of volcanoes. And even though it's in the United States and way up in the Arctic, there's a lot of differences there between that and this like tropical island chain. But in a lot of ways, they're very similar, and like the challenges of monitoring volcanoes in those two places is very similar. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned between those two observatories, and that's where we try to help make those connections.
Yeah, because I would imagine like getting people up into the Aleutians in the winter would be incredibly challenging. You're going to have equipment malfunctioning because of the cold and the snow and the wind. And then the same is going to be like, maybe the weather's not as challenging to get people in, but it's going to be hell on your equipment because you're in the fucking jungle, and there's monsoon season, and there's, the plants are going to choke it out, and it's just not going to be, or it'll be swept away by a flood. So that would be very, very challenging to kind of stay on top of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Different environmental factors, but the same challenge that all this equipment has to be engineered and installed to last a long time.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have to like go back to all these places regularly.
No, not at all. So the last big eruption that we had that kind of put the world on notice was was it in Iceland that it was a massive ash cloud that grounded flights for several days? Was it in Greenland or Iceland, or I think it was. I'm going to say Iceland. Iceland.
Are you talking about the one back in like 2000? Was that 2010 or sometime between 2006 and 2010? Like that long ago?
Yeah. That one.
Yeah. In Iceland. I won't even try to pronounce the name of that volcano.
John, go ahead.
Yeah,
I know how to pronounce this because I asked the geology professor from the class that I was telling you about. It's if I remember correctly, it's Eyjafjallajökull.
Eyjafjallajökull.
Something along those lines.
I just call it Aya.
Yeah, that's probably.
Eyjafjallajökull when that one erupted. What's that? How much data did we glean from that? Was that pretty informative, or did that just kind of confirm what we already knew?
That volcano was well monitored, and the Icelandic Met Office was on top of it, and they always do a great job. I don't remember specifically if there were key lessons learned about forecasting eruptions from that scenario, mostly just because so much of the emphasis on that eruption was just like risk management and like aviation hazard assessment. And that's where the discussion from that eruption ends up going so often. But the people in Iceland, studied that, had that volcano monitored really well, studied it really well, and
Do you think we'll ever get to a place where we can stop eruptions from happening? Like, I mean, we got to be a different type of civilization in order to do that. But it's something that, in order to become a type 1 civilization, we have to learn how to do. But I don't even know. Is there any study at all on how you would go about stopping it?
Not any studies that really hold merit. Occasionally you will hear about someone's idea, but the reality is that it's not really a possibility. So we just have to learn how to monitor them and forecast them better, and make public policy that is appropriate in terms of land use around those places. And it's a lot easier said than done, of course. But.